everyone, this is Lynn from Gardening from Square One. So today I'm going to give a slight or brief tour of the long bed in my yard. The long bed is along the south perimeter of my property. Stay tuned. So the method to my madness here in 2022, the first plants that went in were the evergreens along the fence line to create privacy. I put a large Arizona cypress. Well, it wasn't large when we purchased it. None of these plants were large. My property is over an acre, and therefore it requires a lot of plants. So just because of costs, I think some of the trees were 15 gallons, but this Arizona cypress in the corner, it was a 5-gallon plant 2.5 years ago. So this gives you some idea as to how large an Arizona cypress can become in 2.5 years. Now, point of reference, my fence is 5 feet in height, and you see how tall this Arizona cypress is. It's at least 10 feet tall at this point and at least 8 feet wide. It is been very, very easy to grow. No diseases, no pests, doesn't require a lot of water. So I'm going to turn back around and start to give you all a view of this long border. Like I said, I call it the long border because it's along the back of our property, and this border spans excuse me, about 206 feet in length, and at its widest point, it is approximately 18 feet in depth. So it comes out from the fence about 18 feet. So just to give you a tour, next to the Arizona cypress is a Berkey eastern red cedar. This is another excellent plant for those who reside in hot climates. It is pretty cold tolerant as well. It was very challenging to find the Berkey eastern red cedar. It is becoming more available, but it appears to have all the disease resistance of the eastern red cedar. They're supposed to be drought tolerant once established. The plant that I'm showing you right now went into the ground. It was a little court, and right now it's about 3 feet tall, and I would say about 3 feet in height. It has a very open branching structure, and that's what I really like about it. The color of the plant itself, and then the open way that it grows. I have these dotted throughout the perimeter portion of this long bed. So moving back, I have a Green Mountain boxwood. It's not very happy, has a lot of spider webs. My life has been very busy. I do work full time, and I take care of an ill parent, and I just manage a lot of different things. Gardening for me is relaxation. It is a stress reliever, so I have to do it. It gives me my sanity back sometimes. So in front of this very tall El Nino Catalpa, just point of reference, it went into the ground this past fall, so fall of 2023. It was a quart plant that I ordered from Proven Winners. I definitely need to water it more. It still had the emitter that I put on it when it was a quart, and so El Nino is a big boy right now, and I think he requires more than the small amount of water that I've been providing. But it's October. It's made it through the worst of heat in terms of our season this year, and it's doing just fine. So I think he'll be a lot happier when he starts to get more water. In front of it are Beyond Midnight, excuse me, pardon me, Caryopteris. And I think these weren't getting enough water as well. I actually discovered that the Bluetooth on my phone was not sending the signal to the irrigation clock, and many of my plants over the past month, so the last dog days of summer here in Central Texas, they weren't getting watered. And they're all showing the signs, but fortunately, they appear that they are still alive. Our weather has dipped into the 80s for the high, and next week, I think next Thursday, will be in the 70s here. We don't get much of a winter at all. The temperatures can drop down to about 17 or so for 2, 3 days, but we don't really get much of the cold that we experience until January. And then by late February, we're approaching spring, actually in February. As you can see, there's another Berkey Eastern Red Cedar. This one's a little more um, developed. It's grown more than the other because it is almost 5 feet in height, probably about 4 feet in width. This is actually my favorite tree in the yard. I can't wait until they mature. Jenny at Creekside actually has mature versions of this Eastern Red Cedar Berkey, and it is just beautiful. What I was able to do, because I have been remiss in my gardening duties, this morning I have to go around and just knock all the spiders off of everything. So pardon me for the spiders, but they are just there. I just haven't been able to get out here. But I did come out a few weeks ago, and I cut back all of the roses. So none are really in bloom. Well, most of them aren't in bloom. I will show you a couple or so that are in bloom, but most are not in bloom. Hopefully, my next tour, I plan to provide a full backyard and maybe a front yard tour just to show the progress of this new garden, new space. I plan to do that in a couple, 2, 3 weeks. And so I will show all of the progress that has been made because, as you see in my intro, there was nothing on this property other than the beautiful Mott of Trees, which was our reason for selecting this lot, and a bunch of weeds. So, in terms of the evergreen that you see in the back, that is a Brody Eastern Red Cedar. I'm really fond of them, especially now that I've continued to grow them. They've just been so carefree. They will create an evergreen privacy screen and structure for the yard during the winter months when everything else dies back. I'm skipping past the roses because, well, this one looks awful. This is a James L. Austin, but again, it needs to be deadheaded again, and I did cut it back, but it's just not its best right now. Um, so in the front is another plant that performs really well for us here in eastern or central Texas. It is a Mystic Spire Salvia. I had to cut it back as well because it was about 4 feet high by 4 feet wide. These plants never grow to the especially here in North America and the warmer zones. The tags, what these plants grow to, I think it surprises some growers because when I purchased the El Nino Chatalpa, it was supposed to be 5 to 8 feet. Well, that's my court plant that I just showed you over there. Um, I don't think so. I mean, it's over 5 feet right now, and it's been in the ground here for less than a year. And I think they did revise the estimate. So, if you live in a warmer climate, beware, especially things like David Austin roses. I'll show it in my tour, but I have Mill on the Floss that's supposed to be a shrub. It's a climber in my yard. It is literally about 10 feet tall, and it is a climber. So beware if you live in a warm climate. So moving along, I have more roses that are not in bloom. Right here is an Agastaki. It is a Blue Fortune. I just planted this one a few days ago. This is a Butlia, and then another Agastaki. I also have a rose back there in bloom that is all dressed up. And this gives you some idea of what the blooms on all dressed up look like. I did not expect it to be such a warm pink. This bed has a lot of, my color theme is pinks, blues, purples. I did not expect it to be, sorry, try this again. I did not expect it to be such a warm pink, so I may move it to the Mott of Trees because the pink roses I have on the southern portion of that space, they are warm pink, so it may be better in that space. These are more roses that I've cut down. And oh gosh, that's a beautiful bumblebee. The bees love this agastaki. Every time I come out here, it is just has bees all over it. I grow this plant in my Mott of Tree space as well. So moving along, another agastaki. It is sharing one of its blooms with a beautiful butterfly right now. Nice of it to do that. Or them, because it's not it. It's a lot. Here is another green, I say this is Green Mountain Boxwood. Moving along, here is my favorite, one of my favorite roses. It is a Floribunda. It is ebb tide. I really enjoy the color. I think the color is beautiful, especially when the temperatures cool down and it really puts on the purple. I like the purple. Here are more roses. The one in the back is Sceptered Isle. Sceptered Isle. It is a David Austin rose. I cut it back hard. It is competing with our neighbors, Texas live oak, the privets, and I'm not concerned about the live oak, but I don't know who's going to win the battle between the rose and the privets. I may need to move the rose. So the denim and lace Russian sage, they have a wonky shape. I had the time to come through and just cut out the obvious dead in these plants because, like I said, this border was not getting watered. So the shape is a little wonky, but it's beginning to put out more of its blue foliage or flowers. Here is another ebb tide, one of my favorites. In the back is a butterfly bush that still has the tag on it. I planted it, threw it in the ground a couple of days ago because I wanted it on drip, but I ran out of compost and dirt. And I plant things high, so you can see how high I plant my butterfly bushes. It is at least 1.5 inches above the soil line. When I have more compost or get dirt from digging a hole, I will come in and put the dirt around it so you don't see the top exposed like that. But I wanted to make sure that now that the irrigation is going, that it gets watered versus my having to go out and water it all the time. So I'm going to turn around and show you the border. So from where I just walked. Now, just to show you, the whole front portion of my border has no plants. I'm going to give, and so this yard has been an exercise. It's really been an exercise in patience. I really would love to just fill everything up with plants. And if money were no object, it'd be difficult keeping me from doing that, I think. But what I'm really wanting to do is to allow what I've planted thus far to fill in a bit, get close to maturity in terms of size, because many of these plants, after 2-3 years in the ground, you get a good idea how large some of these plants are going to become. Not the trees, of course, but the perennials and things like that. And then, I can stand back and look at the color combinations and the space I have and figure out what I'm going to put in the front of this border, because when it's all said and done, I will probably have anywhere from 2 to 3 feet of space to put smaller perennials or small boxwoods in the front of this bed. I'm optimistic and I have plans, and I hope that one day this bed becomes what I'm hoping it will become. So moving along, this is my eastern red cedar. This one was planted again in 2022 in the very, very late winter. Actually, it was early spring, and it was a 15-gallon plant. It was about 5 feet tall, and now it is clearly 10 feet tall. It is drought tolerant. I water these plants at this point. They're on their own irrigation zone. I water them, 2, 3 times a month on drip irrigation, and it has been spectacular. No issues with anything. I see I have some hosing off to do of spider webs on it, but beyond that, it's just been carefree. Next year is the leap year for it, so I'm really hoping that it takes off next year. Again, part of my privacy, um, creating privacy for this space. There are more roses that I've deadheaded, um, more Buddleia. I repeat a lot of the same plants. This is Agastache again. The roses in the back are the Ancient Mariner 3. This beautiful plant is a Veronica. It's lightsaber lavender Veronica with a bee on it. I have these dotted throughout the bed. What I'm trying to determine right now, because I've had Veronica die, so this hole is the former home of Veronica Lightsaber. And so I don't know at this point if they cannot take the full sun here in Texas, Central Texas, or I realized I planted them too low and maybe too late in the season. I dug them up and replanted them, and so maybe they weren't rooted in well enough. Prior to my doing that, I will find out for sure. Now, this Mystic Spire Salvia, I actually cut down earlier than the others, and so it is putting on its fall flush. It's interesting. I find that the Mystic Spire Salvia is favored by the bumblebees, but the Agastache is favored by just the regular, I guess, honeybees. I don't know much about bees. I'm not afraid of them. But, and then here is the Beyond Midnight Caryopteris again. I planted these in drifts throughout the bed, and they are starting to form their beautiful flowers. I just love this color on this Beyond Midnight Caryopteris. In the back, I have my one and only hibiscus. It has blue flowers. I don't remember the variety. I'll have to look that up. This is a rose that I planted recently. It's going to have pink flowers. Don't recall if this one is Sweet Romance or one of the old garden roses. I'll know when it blooms, though. I'll know that for sure. This is the last of the 4 Baptisia that I planted. I have struggled with this plant all season. Right now it's being taken over by weeds, and that is because I've pretty much given up on Baptisia in my yard. This year, it's just a disaster. I mean, all year I was fighting one pest or another, and I'm not going to put something in my yard that I have to spray. I see people growing them and they look beautiful, and I just want to ask, what are you doing to have such beautiful Baptisia? My Baptisia looked good for 2 weeks, and then the pests came along, and it's just been pest after pest after pest, and 3 of them I dug out before their roots made it to Oklahoma. And this is the last one. I had contemplated digging it up and trying it just in a different location in my yard to see if that would make a difference. But I think I'm just gonna give up on Baptisia. I cannot have something that needs to be sprayed, sprayed all the time in my yard. So it's gonna be a goner. Something else will go here. Maybe I'll put another Buddleia over here. That's probably what I will do. Put another one of the which one is it? Violet, Miss Violet. That's what I showed you previously, the one I just planted. I have one on my porch, actually. Maybe I'll do that today. Okay. Getting back on track. This is for evergreen structure, but I'm going to limit up and have it be a limbed up tree, but it is a Yapon holly. The nice thing about Yapon holly, one thing I'm going to do at some point in life when my life calms down a bit, you can make tea with the leaves, and it's my understanding that the tea is very nice. Native Americans actually use the leaves of the Yapon holly tree, shrub, bush, plant to make tea. And so there are even stores where you can buy tea, Yapon holly tea. So it's a thing. So I think I'm going to try it on my own. This clearly is the girl because she has her berries. Last winter, I enjoyed watching all of the migratory birds stop by my yard and feast on the berries. But oh my God, look at the spider webs! Geez Louise, I've got to get out here and do some spraying. Um, these are more of the privets. This is an Asian moon budlii. It has webs all over it as well as my Green Mountain boxwood. Their theme here, spider webs all over my yard and my plants. I'm not crazy about this bush thus far. I think I'm going to give it another year and see how it performs. It is about 3 feet wide, about 30 inches tall at this point. This is another Yapon holly. This one is a boy, no berries. This is what my other Mystic Spire Salvias look like prior to my cutting it back. The one I just showed you is what it looks like when you do the right thing, but I didn't have time, so it's alive. It's alive, and I'll get to it. Even I still have time. Maybe even today, I will be able to cut this back and let it put on new growth for fall. Bumblebees are still having a party in it, though. So somebody's happy with it right now. This is a Carolina laurel cherry. It is the compacta. This was a plant that I was really concerned about. Didn't know if it could take full sun. Didn't know if my alkaline soil would be a problem for it. This was a 5-gallon plant, I believe, 10 tops that went in 2022 with the Eastern Red Cedars. And it is literally almost 7 feet tall and about 6 feet wide at this point. It has been pretty disease free. It's been moderate in terms of its growth, and its evergreen leaves are nice. It has berries and then flowers in the spring. I've been very happy with it. This is a chase tree. It is rock steady. It's a court plant that I put in the ground this spring. I have high hopes for this. It is supposed to be about 4 feet wide and 12 feet tall. I'm questioning that when this is full grown, that it will be 4 feet wide. I hope it will be 12 feet tall. That would make me happy. This is a rose bush. What is this called? It's one of the proven winners. It can be grown as a climber or a bush. I'll have to look up the name of it and I'll post it when I upload this video. Here's another Rocksteady Vitex. Another proven winners rose. This one has no blooms on it. Another Rocksteady Vitex. Another drift Beyond Midnight Caryopteris. I think I have 7 of those. These are baby gem boxwood that the spiders are having their way with. In the corner is a Catawba crepe myrtle. This was a 3-gallon plant that went into the ground last spring, so a year ago. I have more privets for privacy. Me and my husband planted these. They were 3-gallon plants that went in 2022. They are now almost 5 feet tall and about 3 feet wide, each of them. And then in the very corner back here, the corner of this long bed, I have, oh gosh, what is this? I just don't pay any attention to it. It's a smoke bush. That's what it is. The midnight smoke bush. My thought was at some point the burgundy leaves and then the purple of the Catawba crepe myrtle, when it grows up and becomes what it's going to be, that burgundy foliage will create a nice backdrop. So, looking from the east pointing west, you see my long bed and the progress. Now in this portion, you see it tapers off. So it's not as, this bed isn't as deep in this area as the other because my septic drain field is over here. And I wanted to make sure I kept everything far away from my septic drain field. I do not want any clogging of the septic drain field. I've read too many stories where that is an expensive nightmare. But in the front, I will probably put some type of evergreen perennial. The space that I'm walking in, that's what remains for planting at some point. So I figure sometime in 2025, maybe, the fall of 2025 or the spring of 2026, I will start planting. Oh, buds, you're going to have blooms. So maybe when I give my next tour, you'll show us your pretty, pretty flowers like this one. Look at the color combination between the rose. Let me move this. The rose and then the blooms. I just love that. That is one of my favorite combinations there. These things make me happy. The bees, the birds, coming outside, getting fresh air, watching the butterflies. Okay, so that is my view of this long bed. It's been a lot of work. Every plant that you see was planted by me. It's been a lot of work, with the exception of the large trees. The large trees went in, they were planted by either a person contracted with a nursery or one of our landscapers. So next week, or 3 weeks, 3 weeks, I will give an overall tour of not just this bed, but let me not give you any, it wouldn't be whiplash, but there's a word for that. I'll provide a tour of the entire space in about 3 weeks. So for now, that's it, signing off. If you want to see more of the progression of this space, please consider clicking subscribe and notifications, or share it with someone trying to plant in Central Texas, Oklahoma, the South, any place where there's drought, because my plants for the most part are drought and heat focused. Oh, and pests. I have deer, rabbit. I don't know where they are, but there's a couple of roadrunners that live on my property. All kinds of things come through. But anyone trying to garden and are dealing with deer, rabbits, drought, heat, spider mites, please consider sharing this video. And for now, I'm going to sign off because, like I usually do, I start rambling at the end. So I'm just going to say, I hope you have a great day in your garden, and bye for now.